Check.
All right, so we're getting the link moved over to Zoom, and then the demonstration will be starting. Just give us a couple minutes to get that link moved over.
All right, so I got a copy of my MacBook here, so let's go on here. Oh, we're unmuted. Awesome. All right, yeah, I'm getting to put in the chat right now for you guys.
Perfect. I will share it with everybody on the email.
All right.
As soon as I get it.
Perfect. So you should see it right there. Is that working good?
Yep.
All right. Perfect.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys. My name is Eric. I'm kind of the behind the scenes of Brendan's YouTube channel, I guess. So doing all the videography and editing work. And so tonight I'm behind the scenes doing live stream. So we got 3 cameras set up for you guys for the demonstration. So there'll be multiple camera angles. I'll also be the one monitoring the chat. So as we're doing the demonstration, as you guys post things in the chat, I'll be relaying those to Brendan, and he will be answering your questions live on the air. So we do have the capability of doing that. So yeah, it'll be great to make it happen. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Eric, you're going to have to mute your. You're going to have to mute your microphone.
Yep, we will mute the Zoom. Yeah, Brendan's muting it.
So, Eric and Brendan have volunteered to do this. Eric is.
All right, hello YouTube. We've got the stream running here.
Yeah, move it so that we're not looking right straight into the light. That would be awesome. Either that or leave it there if you want to just torture us.
What?
Check.
We're actually going to be moving over to the YouTube platform to see the demonstration.
Yeah, so we put a link in the chat. You should just be able to click that link. Whatever device you're on, it should move you over to that, to the YouTube. Our recommendation is that you close out Zoom because there's way less feedback that way. Otherwise, you might be getting some weird audio. We are going to close down our Zoom video stream. We're just going to completely come off the stream because that'll make it easier for us to do the YouTube stuff. So I'm going to head over, and we're going to get the demonstration started here in just a little bit.
Thanks, Brendan.
Sounds great.
So, does everybody,
End this.
Yep.
if you don't have the chats,
All right. Can you guys hear us okay? Feel free to just respond in the chat if you can. Just want to make sure everything is working on that end.
We have people coming in yet?
Yes, Brendan, we've got people coming in. We've got a few people in the chat, 17 viewers, so that is fantastic. All right, David says yes, so I will assume that means yes, he can hear us, so that is awesome. So yeah, Brendan's going to get things going here.
I'm going to get the hammer running, and we'll be off to a start.
All right, awesome. Exciting stuff here. All right, so Brendan's been preheating the hammer billet, so I'm going to switch to that camera angle for you guys.
You got eyes on me?
Yep.
All right, so
Yep.
welcome to the shop. This is the first virtual demonstration for the Minnesota Guild of Metalsmiths. I will be forging a 2.5-pound rounding hammer on this glorious Anyang 165. So the first step, I have 4 inches of 1.5 square, 1045. It's in the fire, should be good and hot by now. I have the center marked out on both sides. That's going to come out into the hammer dies. First thing I do is punch the hole. I'm going to give you a little bit of rundown on what's going to happen after that. I don't know how well I'll be able to be heard over the hammer. So after punching the hole, I will then go in with a drift. I got these little tiny hammer drifts. Going in that way, drifting the hole, drawing out the cheeks a little bit. This is I don't know what kind of style. It's like a rounding hammer style, I guess. I'll be then drawing out the cheeks and then fullering it. We should be just about done. I'll do a little bit of cleanup and planishing work after that. Depends on what our time looks like when I get to that point. We may also cover how I heat treat these. So sit back, enjoy. Please ask questions. Eric should be able to relay those to me, and I should be able to answer them.
that better for you guys, or are you still getting some echo on the stream? Just let us know in the chat. All right, awesome. I'm glad that audio's cleared up.
All right, so got the hole punch. I'm going to throw this back in the fire. Got a nice little slug here.
Is the sound working for everyone else? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you can just unmute your YouTube part and it should be working for you. All right, Brendan, we don't have any questions from the chat right now, but if there's anything you want to talk about, feel free to do so.
All right, so the next step that I'm going to do is run the drift through. I got a couple different tools for doing this. I have a little block that I have. This will be going underneath the hammer billet. The hammer billet will go on top. That way I can run the drift through without running into the power hammer die. The other thing I will have is fuller dies on one half, on the far half of the power hammer, which I'll install those next. One thing you'll notice as I install these, I do not turn the ram off on the power hammer. Eric, if we can get a video of the treadle here.
Yep.
There are a couple ways you can change power hammer dies. I see a lot of people, when they change their hammer dies, they'll turn the top valve off, which just stops air from running into the front cylinder. The problem with this is that if something falls in your treadle, which is a problem when you're changing power hammer dies, it still sends power to the ram. So I like not doing that. The other option is completely shutting the hammer down. This is a high load start motor, which causes some, issues. It doesn't like to start and stop all the time. It wears your switch out, wears the capacitors in your motor out. So the way I've found the safest and easiest way to do this is leave the hammer cycling. Back to the foot, Eric, you're down.
Back to the foot? All right.
Oh, yeah. With the treadle, I stick my feet underneath the treadle. Now, if this way, I can only get a little bit of air to the cylinder. I'm pushing as hard as I can. If I drop something, I have plenty of time to get my hands out of the way. It takes a very long time for the hammer to get down to the bottom. So the dies I'll be using, I don't know, which camera are you on, Eric?
I'm on this one right now.
All right. The dies I'll be using are these 1-inch half round top and bottom fuller. They're on a little saddle with a bolt. These hammer dies have holes right through them, so it makes the installing of these really easy and fast.
Brendan, what type of steel are you using? They're wondering in the chat.
Oh, 1045. You want to write it down, Eric, just 1045.
All right. 1045 steel. Kenneth in the chat wants to know if it's annealed 1045 or if it's just regular.
It's all cold rolled 1045 square bar. I believe it's annealed because I can run it through the bandsaw just fine. But I'm not 100% sure if it's normal non-hardened state or if it's actually annealed.
Michael Gerber from the chat wants to know what you sprinkled in the hole before you punched it.
Yeah, all I'm using is crushed coal. So I'll just take a little chunk of coal and just push on it and roll around with a little bit with the hammer. That coal provides a little bit of a lubricant or I don't know what to call it. It puts something over the punch and helps it not stick in the hole quite as much. If I don't use that, the punch is way more likely to get stuck in the hole.
And then we've also got Kenneth in the chat again saying, so you didn't harden the hammer dies? I think he's talking about, he's asking the steel for the hammer dies, not the hammer.
Hammer dies. So the ones I bolted on?
Yeah, I believe that is what he's asking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ones I just bolted on are actually 5160. They're just some resized springs, I guess. I don't remember exactly what I used, but I believe it's 5160. If I remember correctly, they're not hardened. They're just kind of their normal forged state. But it's been, I don't know, like a year since I made them, so I don't really remember what I did. And then the dies that the hammer came with, the flat dies, are H13. All right, I've got the cheeks drawn out a little bit. The next step I'm going to do is start putting the troughs in around the faces.
All right, we don't have any questions in the chat right now, so.
I don't really got a lot to say. I kind of just
Waiting for metal to heat up, yeah. Oh,
I'll be switching tongs for this next part. Throughout most of this, you'll see I've been using, I don't know what you call these. I call them power hammer tongs. They're basically long flat bits with a little U on each end and then a V cut in the end as well. I can manipulate just about anything I want, from small stuff like the strip to large stuff. Like this hammer, you can hold a great variety of different stuff. So I really like these to work with the power hammer. The other ones I was using were these, I don't know, they must be 5/8. Yeah, I think they're 5/8 V-bits. So for most of this drawing of the troughs or hammering of the troughs, I have 1.5 V-bits. These are going to be the tongs of choice for this next step.
I've got a nice shot of the table of all your tongs lined up, so I can see them all laying down too. Mark, wait, hang on. Yes, Mark, we can, essentially YouTube does that for us automatically. So yeah, this live stream, as soon as it ends, YouTube will take about an hour to do some processing, and then it will show up just like any other YouTube video would. So yes, you will be able to jump back in and watch this later if you'd like to.
So with this next step, you'll probably notice me flipping it about 90 degrees to 180 degrees every hit or two. That's so that as I'm forging it, just like on an anvil, if you're forging with a hammer, you're going to flip it. Otherwise, it's not going to forge quite even. There's less energy coming from the bottom than there is from the top. So that's why you'll see me rotating it a lot. This hammer cycles at 215 beats per minute. So single blows take a little bit of practice to get. If you look at some of the older, like Nasals or Massey power hammers, they will typically cycle at a slower speed, which makes it a lot easier to get the single blow kind of work. You'll also see people using steam hammers or air hammers, not self-contained air hammers. Those ones tend to have a very good treadle feature where you can just get one good blow. That's one downside to using a self-contained hammer. It's a lot more difficult to get a good, strong single blow, especially with a high BPM.
We do have a couple questions for the chat if you got time.
Yeah.
Michael Gerber wants to know how you got started in smithing.
How I got started? That is a good question. Usually I'll say I was 7 at the Wright County Fair. There's a blacksmith there. I watched him basically the entire week, and finally at the end of the fair, he let me, quote unquote, help him do some blacksmithing. Knowing now what I didn't know then, it was way less help and way more hindrance. That was, I guess, where the seed got planted. That probably kind of sat dormant for 7 years. When I was 14, I wanted to have a sword, a European longsword. So I decided rather than going and spending like $230 at Arms and Armor or something, I said, I've done some blacksmithing, I can make one. Most of you probably know that's a pretty naive thing to think. That's basically how I got started.
Tom Anderson wants to know, are these hammerheads your own design?
Yeah, not really. I'll say that. There are other people out there that make very similar stuff. Some of it was, I guess you could say some of my design was derived from Brian Brazil, which a lot of rounding hammer designs are. I don't know that anybody really has a super original hammer design other than like Hoffy hammers are very original. Everybody else just kind of has a take on a very common design, I guess is how I put it.
Makes sense to me.
So as I'm getting these troughs kind of set in, I'm just using light little blows. Otherwise, they go too far and they'll typically end up uneven, which then makes your final product look really funny. All right, there we go. That's all I'm going to do in this heat. Basically, throw it back in the fire and repeat.
All right, Mark Lockwood in the chat would like to know how big the power hammer is.
Its ram weight is 165, and then the overall weight of the machine is 6,023 pounds or something. Runs off a 10-horse 3-phase motor.
So pretty big.
Sits on 4 cubic yards of concrete. All right, there we go. One thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is as I'm fullering these, one thing that'll happen is the ends of your eyes will often get scrunched a little bit. I don't know if you've seen that before. I think I have an example around here somewhere I can grab. So as I'm drawing these down, as those dies go in, that width gets wider, the width of that die gets wider because it has a radius on the front. So I want to move most of that width and take it from the face of the hammer, not from the eye. You take that material from the eye, that's when you get that really scrunching happening on the eye. So as I'm hammering, I'm also having back pressure on there, so most of that spread happens from the front portion of the hammer and not from the back. Which one's a tight shot?
Yeah, you want a tight shot? Yeah, point it right under this camera right here. I will follow you as best I can.
All right, you can see it on this hammer really well. There's that really deep.
Pull it back a little. There we go. Yep, that lens can't focus quite that close up, but now it's in focus. We're good.
Sure. You can see how there's that that deep point there on the end, that's an example where the full ring got way too close to the eye and just started pinching way more and more of that eye than you really wanted to. That's why you have to keep pulling back a little bit. Down pressure and a little bit of back pressure will get rid of that a lot. You can still get it if your fullers are too close to the eye. That's just something you got to learn to watch for.
We do have a couple things from chat if you got time. One that I missed from earlier, more of a funny, Tom Anderson wants to know if you'll crack an egg on your hammer later today.
I don't know if I have an egg to crack, but I could.
Okay. More serious question coming up is where and when do you sell your hammers? Do you make custom orders? That's from Wendy Anderson.
So typically people just send me an email or shoot me a DM on Instagram when they want to buy one. I had them for sale at SOFA last year and at the Madness, the fall conference here in Minnesota. So if you want one, shoot me an email. We can make it happen. I typically sell my 2.5 pounders for 130 or 120, sorry. So gives you a pretty good idea on what the price range is.
All right, and like Brendan said, I'm actually going to put the email in the chat right now. Otherwise, his Instagram is at B.C.S. Blacksmith as well if you want a message on Instagram. But the email is going in the chat right now. If you don't have access to chat, though, it is just bcsblacksmith@gmail.com.
Eric, I'm coming out to the anvil next.
All right, I will follow you there.
All right, so got half the cheeks drawn out to about their final shape. Throw it back in, do the other side.
All right, no questions from the chat, but we do have Mark saying that he would rather see a live demonstration, but if we can't do that, this is about as good as it gets, and he appreciates we're doing it, so I thought I would pass that along with you. I'm having fun. This is pretty fun. I know you guys on the stream can't see it, but I got a whole studio back here, so it's fun for me. Brendan gets to play with all his great stuff.
I mean, basically for me, it is a live demonstration.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What are you getting out of the tool chest?
So I thought, while we were here waiting for the steel to get hot, here's a little more interesting little hammer I got.
You're a little bit too close for this. Oh, there we go. We're
Right
focused
there?
now. Yeah,
Right
we're good.
There's a jeweler's hammer that I forged. These are kind of a pain, which if you have experience forging, you probably can see why. The face is so much bigger than the body and has to be made first. And it's so small, you don't got a lot of room to work. So just thought I'd share this little guy here a little bit.
Yeah, to answer your question, Wayne, I'm currently running 3 cameras right now. The one that's actually live right now that you can see I can move around, I've actually got on a kind of a crazy motorized contraption paired up to an Xbox or game console controller. So I'm using the joysticks on the gaming controller to pan it around. And then I've got 2 cameras on tripods, one mainly focused on the power hammer and one focused on Brendan talking.
So I don't know if you can quite see that here. The faces on my hammer are tilted down right now a little bit. What I'm going to do is throw it back in the fire. I have a very short vise that'll open up just to support the 2 faces. And I have a half-round top swage tool that I can set on the top and just push that back into square a little bit.
Yeah, Wayne, I see your question in the chat now that we're between things. Before we shut the stream off, once Brendan's kind of done with his main demonstration, I can flip one of the cameras around and show you the behind the scenes since you're curious. I got one question from the chat for you, Brendan. All right. Mike Sarapak would like to know, he says, nice shop. Out of all of your hand tools, what is your most commonly used tool? Could be your favorite hammer or a pair of tongs or a punch, etc.
Typically, I got 3 or 4 if you count my maker's mark, which is around here somewhere. So, I don't know what camera you're on.
I'm on this one right now, yep.
Okay, so these are my 2 mostly used hammers here. I have a 6-pound rounder and a 2-pound rounder. And then I got, these are probably some of my most used tongs, especially when I'm using the power hammer. I got several different varieties of these. They're all about the same, a little bit different shapes and sizes. And then V-bit tongs are probably my other go-to pair of tongs. And then something that gets used on every project, or at least it should if I know where it is. Oh, it's right here, in plain sight. I got my touch mark. This is used on basically everything. So maybe this, I don't know. What about anvils? Do they count anvils?
I mean, maybe he didn't specifically say that, but you want to count anvils? All right, here, I'm switching to that camera. That's your South German you're talking about, right? All right, yeah, I can see it right where it's at. I got a camera on it.
So that right there is my favorite anvil. It's a 332-pound South German anvil made by Selding Halbach. Made in 1917. That's about all the information I got on it.
Oh, awesome.
It's the best one I got. All right, so are we on this camera?
I can be. You want a close-up? Yeah, let's do it. All right, they can see it. We're close up.
So the next thing we're going to do is I have another half-round puller. I'm going to put that on the hammer and pull the dies that are currently on there off. I'm going to just pinch these two sides to kind of get them more uniform. And then I have some narrow flat dies, which I'm going to throw on to planish out the sides of the hammer to get all these little ribs out. And there's a little bit of a waviness in there to planish all that out. And that's going to be the next couple things I'm going to do.
Yeah, Mark, to answer your question, and I'm sure Brandon can share half of this too. Mark just asked in the chat how we know each other, but me and Brendan have known each other since we were probably about like 3 or 4. We went to like the same homeschool co-op. Does that sound accurate?
We were in kindergarten or preschool?
Yeah.
Nursery? I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
nursery?
something like that. The homeschool.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, the homeschool version of preschool. And then, yes, we used to hang out then, and then it had probably been a few years since we had seen each other, and then we reconnected at a local youth group. So when we were probably 16 or 17, and that's when I found out, hey, Brendan was getting into blacksmithing stuff at that time, and I was getting into video stuff. And so I was like, hey, like I could film you doing your blacksmithing stuff. and we could start like YouTube or something, and that'd be pretty fun. So then we started doing it. We made a few videos initially and got a few views, and then we came back to it like a year later and started consistently making more videos, and now we're up to like 600 subscribers. And yeah, we try to meet every week. Sometimes it's more like every other week, and yeah, we film some videos, make some stuff. It's definitely helped me improve my videography skills over the years, and it's definitely been a lot of fun doing this with Brendan. So that's definitely a little backstory on us.
There we go. Got a couple pieces of 1/4 inch, just little piece I had laying around. The reason I have these is if the faces are off one side, more to one side than the other, I can lay one of these down as just kind of a brace, I guess, and tap down on the other side, and I can square stuff up. Typically, it's about a 1/4 inch between the edge of the faces and the edge of the cheeks. So if I really want to get it precise, and if they're actually what I expect them to be, I can just swap a piece on both sides, give it a couple whacks, and everything gets centered up pretty well.
Diamond Metalworks in the chat wants to know, are there holes tapped into the dies or just friction?
So the dies covers, well, saddles, I guess you might call them, that I'm using, just have a washer weld on one side and then a bolt on the other, or a nut on the other. There are holes just all the way through. Most of my dies have some slop in them, which cause some issues. There's a technique where you basically have a tapered washer on both sides. One taper's locked on this way, I think, or is it? It's locked on this way, and your other taper goes on the other way. And that way, when you tighten it down, it forces the die up tight against the hammer die, which gives you a lot more stable and more control. When your die wobbles around this way a little bit, it can make it a little difficult to get a consistent, even forging. With the dies that I have on there currently, with the saddle reaches both holes, that gives the die a lot more stability, so it has no side-to-side wiggle, which gives you a way a lot more control. Okay, so this is a little hotter than I actually want it for this next step. I let it sit kind of longer than I should have. So I'm going to kill some time, just brush it off and twiddle my thumbs for a bit.
Oh, you're dropping it on the floor?
Yeah, good way to kill time.
No, that's true. about that, guys. You probably noticed the